I was a chaotic teenager, living the double life of a superhero. A model student by day, I rarely got caught, but I could sense trouble, and I always wanted to join in. My parents raised me with the philosophy of you don't know what you like until you try it, so try everything once. It's a great philosophy for getting your kid to try liver and onions, but I seriously doubt they intended for me to carry it over into my teenage social life. And in 1999, there was so much you could get away with. Keg stands, Edward 40 hands, sneaking into an underground rave in Baltimore. You never know if you like it until you try it. We ran from the cops so many times. I knew how to jump out of a ground floor window, tuck and roll, then burst into a run without breaking a sweat. I ran with a fierce and fearless girl gang whose parents had come from humble backgrounds and worked hard to break into the middle class. We made the honor roll, ran the school paper, sang in the choir, and played varsity sports, all while attending parties that featured flaming skateboards and endless beer bonging competitions. My family was at the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum and drilled into me the importance of college. It's the only way to move up into the world. I decided to go to the Deep South for college purely because I hate the cold. Moving from the Baltimore-Washington region, I learned many things from my new Southern friends. Catholics aren't Christians. Yeah, that was news to me. Anal sex does not count as losing your virginity. I also learned that as a Jew, I was really skilled at hiding my horns and tail. And I quickly learned that my female classmates in the South, they held it all in until they got to college. My neighbor, a former debutante who dropped out freshman year due to a pill addiction and had to frequently be reminded to bathe and go to class, she explained how in her town they were always watching. Her every move, her every outfit was monitored for propriety and judged. For girls like her, college was the first time that she could exist without judgment. She could drink all night Friday, go to church on Sunday, and wash it all away. Girls like her, they were a force of self-destruction, the likes of which I had never seen. On my first night of college, just after move-in, a group of us from the floor went to the dining hall together. This is where I met my Haley. Haley was from a working-class family in Pittsburgh, helmed by a fierce single mother. She and I, well, it was kismet. She was this beautiful, charismatic blonde who happened to be exactly my size and height. She was like me, a Yankee who had seen some shit and done some shit. It was like meeting my twin soul. I'd never encountered someone who, like me, used their smile and wit and great hair to get them places in life that came easily to those with more money and more privilege. On the first night we met, Haley and I went out together, and I fainted from a combination of heat exhaustion, dehydration, and grain alcohol. I landed face first on the concrete, and when I came to, she was the first person I saw, and she stayed by my side all night, even though she had just met me 4 hours earlier. She helped me mask the gigantic raspberry that bloomed on my face, and she helped me feel less ridiculous starting my college career with a giant scab on my cheek. My Haley was sunshine in human form. She collected people wherever she went, in class, in Air Force ROTC, or out in the wild at all of the parties she got us invited to. She basically moved into my dorm room because my roommate was always in Atlanta doing MDMA and GHB. She officially moved in after my roommate's friend jailbroke her house arrest monitor, hid out in our dorm room for several days. In exchange for my silence, my roommate agreed to move out. There's a certain intimacy in sharing a room with someone. I still remember the soft sighs she made when she slept and how her hair stood straight up in the morning. Those first few months of college, she and I, the two have-nots, we quickly learned how to navigate that world of privilege and found our place in a strange new land called the Deep South. My first semester at college, I had fun. My mom told me that I could either get my grades up or I could come home and go to community college, which at that time seemed a fate worse than death. I found myself a nice, smart Southern boyfriend, worked my tail off and buckled down. He was the first of many wet blankets I have dated, but somehow they always seemed to come along at the right time. We studied together, and I saved my hard partying for Friday and Saturday nights only. As a fellow unprivileged kid, I thought that Haley would understand. Because in our world, there's no contingency plan, or there's no cushion from our parents if things go wrong. But she had better grades, and she saw me as changing myself for some guy. And she wasn't entirely wrong, but I knew I had to get my shit a bit more together. That doesn't mean I wasn't drinking on a weeknight, but that was after my homework was done now. And so this particular Wednesday night, when she and some friends wanted to go to a club in Greenville, I said no. That afternoon, I wrestled with the decision because we had been drifting apart more and more lately. I desperately wanted to go, but I was trying to be my new, improved self. That evening, I had also just started watching this historical documentary called Gone with the Wind, and I wanted to see where it went. So when she left at 9, looking ridiculously cute, I waved bye and I said, "Have fun." I expected to be woken up in the middle of the night, hearing her stumble her way up our rickety lofted beds. Instead, a short time after I went to bed, the phone rang. I can still see that night as though I'm underwater. Everything muffled and slow-moving, currents swirling and churning. As I struggled to wake up, I climbed down from my bed, wondering who would be calling in the middle of the night. It was the police. They told me there had been an accident and I needed to come to the hospital. I've always been described as strong. I don't crumble under pressure and I don't cry in public. I'm the one others turn to and rely on in times of trouble. And what this means to those of us who are strong is that we don't get to be soft. We don't know how to crumble and let others put the pieces back together. At the hospital, I spoke to the doctors and the police and gave them as much information as I could. The police brought me in a small office and explained what had actually happened. The driver was intoxicated, blacked out, lost control of the car, and they flipped. Haley was in the passenger seat and died upon impact. I sat there 5 months past my 18th birthday and took it all in. I'd experienced death before, but mostly with elderly family members or classmates I wasn't close to. I was quite young and very much in shock, so when the police asked me to notify her mother, it didn't occur to me that it was a terrible idea and something typically left up to seasoned professionals. They dialed the number, handed me the phone, telling me it would be better heard from someone she knew. But I'd never actually met her mother in person, only spoken on the phone a few times. So I called. I told her there had been an accident. She howled and called her daughter's name with such anguish. I can still hear it. I said so little, but she knew, without words. And she hung up. I looked at the officers, sobbing, and they simply redialed and handed me the phone again. I spoke to Haley's brother. I told him what happened, while I heard his mother continue to howl in the background. And so that's the night that I think of as the before and the after. My best friends drove down from Maryland with my mother and camped in my dorm room, holding me while I sobbed for days. We sat Shiva in my room, watching people stop by and take a small memento to remember Haley by. They helped me pack up her belongings. They sat with me while I wrote my speech for her memorial service. My mom worked with the university to have Haley's belongings sent to Pittsburgh and talked to her mother, because I just couldn't. And then they left. And I was in the haunted dorm room alone for 3 more months. I don't know if my friends abandoned me or I abandoned them. I had lived with Haley in a tiny room that was bursting with life and clutter. Her side of our room remained blank and empty for the rest of the year, and that emptiness permeated my life. I somehow returned to the university in the fall, out of spite, tribute, or plain stupidity I will never know. I joined student government, and I became assistant attorney general. I played club field hockey, and I got my first college job as a photographer at Greek parties, memorializing other people having fun. In college, I learned that there are different types of friends. There are the ones who build you a nest of blankets, cocoon you in their love, assuring you that it will be all right because they'll be with you each step of the grieving process. There are friends who can't physically be there, but their love is always there. Like penguins, they offer you pebbles of connection and support that keep you moving forward. And then there are the friends who will always center their struggle, no matter how deep of a hole you find yourself in. This is actually the first time most of my friends will ever learn anything about that night that shaped my early adult years. And I'm not sure exactly what is different. My therapist says that I'm finally ready to confront the trauma and break the patterns I've repeated in an endless loop. I'm ready to let people in. I think that I finally have the friends who will cocoon me in their love. The friends from afar sending me pebbles of love in the form of spoons with obscene language and endless Instagram videos about heated rivalry. If you know, you know. They let me be soft and vulnerable. They celebrate my wins, big or small, and they shower my little boy with love at every turn. Every year on March 1st, the day she died, I think of Haley. I tell myself I will reach out to her mother, to her family, but I don't. This March 1st came and went, and instead, I spent the month celebrating the birthdays of 2 of the most incredible friends I have ever had. And then one evening this March, I sat down and I wrote about my Haley. Thank you.